one with an effusive salutation. How long has it been since you, like Paul, thought the end of the world was near? Now, this poem goes in an entirely different place. It's titled The Echocardiogram. I lie on my side on the paper-covered exam table in the totally immodest open front gown, watching the screen record my heart. How does one record a heart that too often does not reside in my chest, but across the country, sometimes across the ocean, sometimes it's in a simple email from Tony from Syria. The green line marks peaks and valleys in steady regularity as the ultrasound technician runs the scanner across my chest. The green line can't record heartbreak or heartache or that curious feeling of unease behind my sternum that haunts me when I touch the edges of the sea. The pictures on the screen show dark spots and light, and then the tech turns on the sound, and there's the whoosh, whoosh that I remember hearing in the hearts of my not yet born babies, steady washing in and out of blood, the pumping, the opening and closing of valves. In Bakhmut, a woman my age is evacuated down a stairway, her building falling apart behind her, probably like me, a grandmother, a mother, a person who cooks borscht, bakes bread. Her heart breaks. The scan shows red and blue sections, and I don't know what they mean. The technician doesn't say, only does his job. He captures certain images with a click of a mouse, and I wonder what it means if my life hangs in some precarious balance. Where will she go, the old woman on the stairs, her home no longer accessible, her heart beating in fear, in anger, in grief? He finishes, turns off the machine, tells me I can get dressed behind the curtain, and shows me the way to the exit. I leave the building, walk onto York Avenue, buy lunch from a food truck, flag down a cab, and ride back to 121st Street. This next one is titled At the Metro Diner, 100th and Broadway, March 19th, 2025. 3 men sit at a table near me and talk about Othello and Jake Gyllenhaal and Denzel, and I almost ask if they know how to get a ticket for less than $300, but I don't. I pay my bill and walk across Broadway, flag a cab, and again I notice the cabs stop for old ladies with canes. Take your time, they always say when I get in. Or like the young guys standing at the bottom of the stairs up to the salon where I just got my hair cut. Sorry, I say, I'm slow on the stairs, but I don't really want to fall. He says, I'm an EMT. I'm all for slow and canes. Take your time. It's all so human. And I wonder if the president will notice when the bodies start falling, when people begin to starve to death in their own homes or on park benches, when someone whose pronouns are they and them stumbles exhausted in the street from just trying to exist and is hit by a car. Will their family learn of the death, or will the body be secreted in some potter's field? What will they do when the bodies start accumulating? What will we do? Stand in front of the speeding car, or like Othello, believe the lies someone tells until by omission or misdirection, we kill someone too? It's mid-March, the air is soft, daffodils begin to bloom, and crocuses. The sky is cloudless blue, but under it all, the dark days begin encroaching, and bodies begin to fall. This is another poem that I wrote relatively recently. Only chance. It becomes like a toothache, dull and insistent, present in all my phone calls, in my study time, hanging out there behind the readings for theology, the appreciation of the morning sun through my window, and preparing the first coffee of the day. It is no longer a question of if, but a question of when. And like the toothache, it's not if it hurts, but when it will stop. My sister tells me she will not leave the country. Her children and grandchild are here. She couldn't leave. But I am surrounded by friends who are more than friends, chosen family with green cards, with student visas, with accents, with families in suspect countries whose crime is nothing more than wanting to learn, wanting to live peacefully among books, libraries, and other students. Every day, I know again and again that it is only chance that my skin is white, that my ancestors came here before there was a country, that my English is generic, hovering somewhere between the mid-Atlantic states and the West. It's only chance that I will not likely be the one who is grabbed on the street by masked men, hustled off to a detention center in Louisiana, denied an attorney. Only chance that I will not be deemed a person of interest. This next poem is called Doing the Math. It begins with a quotation by E. Cummings. I would rather learn from one bird how to sing than teach 10,000 stars how not to dance. I have never been friends with numbers. They dance unconvincingly on the page, do not usually attach themselves to anything except maybe grocery lists, 1 dozen eggs, 1 loaf of bread, 1 hunk. What exactly is a hunk of cheese? But I am forced now daily to see the numbers, to listen to their names in body counts and dollars, in rubles, in people incarcerated, in people apprehended, held in temporary or permanent cells. If someone disappears, does she become a negative number, a less than zero, imaginary, non-existent? How many voices must be raised? How many people makes a majority? 435 representatives, 50 senators, 9 Supreme Court judges, 1 president. Remember the difference between less and fewer. Fewer trucks, fewer bombs, less rubble, less dust, less air, fewer babies, fewer things we can count, less the uncountable. Here is an equation for you. Can you balance 3 million shiny electric trucks against 1 child's tear-streaked face? This next poem is actually a little cheerier. It's called Making Fire Cider 2 days before the election for Alyssa. She invites me to the 4th floor kitchen to make fire cider, and I peel garlic while Helena chops onions, and she cuts lemons and oranges into small sections. The jars wait, clean and empty. Bon comes in, nibbles on dried mulberries. It's good for you, she says. You can put it in salad dressing or in tea. The smells fill the kitchen, healing us just in the making, in the chopping, in the sweet conversation. Once, long ago, I wrote, to paint a kitchen is an act of faith. And so it is. But so is chopping oranges and garlic. I think now of ancient Palestine, where olives and lemons, almonds and onions sustained peasants poorer than I can imagine. We cannot ever know what's coming. The future, in a minute, doesn't reveal itself until it's present. Sometimes buildings collapse without warning, sometimes planes crash, and always people die. Always people die. Even now, as we cut the garlic and the lemons, even now. But even now, someone is born, someone's mother wraps her baby in a shawl, another mother weeps as she holds him. Touch my hand. Let me put my hand on your heart. It beats. Every beat a move into the future that we cannot see. The future that frightens us. Every beat reminds me that your heart beats with mine, beats with the hearts of robins and doves, the hearts of children born decades from now. I look at the glass jars on my shelf, garlic, onion, lemon, and orange, dried mulberries curing. Let it sit for 6 weeks, she says, smiling. 6 weeks or 3 if you're impatient. The light catches on the fruit and the golden liquid and the future we might not see. This poem is called Still Life with Tulips. I have written this poem before. It might be the poem that I am always writing, about how I find God in the shades of gray, in the moments just before the sunrise or just after sunset, when the afternoon's glow lingers on the fringes of the world, and we know that dark is not far behind. I am always less certain in the clear, bright light, in noon's shadowless declaration, the sun so grandly overhead, so insistent on the rightness of the world. It's the little cups of shadow that slowly grow beneath a bench or along a side street, the darkening spot lurking to the right of that pot of blazing tulips. Those tulips trumpeting that all is well in the world, but the little shadow grows as the sun moves and the tulip's color darkens. I find absolutes exhausting. The incessant proclamation that disregards the subtle, the fuzzy, the darker lens. We need to remember that all is not right with the world. And at the same time, every shadow creates its own light, its own wonder. We just have to look for it. This next poem I wrote in 2022. I remember the moment clearly. I was in a class in Sarah Azaransky's queering ethics class, and it was just before Roe v. Wade was overturned. And another abortion poem, 55 years later, 2022 to 1966. I did not want to have to write this. I had hoped that the waiting room with sniffling children, arthritic adults, and several young women could stay packed away in a box labeled "the old days," or things my granddaughters won't need to worry about. In a corner of a mental attic, smelling as my grandmother's did of dust and old wood. I really did not want to have to write this again after all the work, the letters, the marches, the signs, the interviews on the radio, the appeals for women's lives. Once in the 1980s, my friend Kathy and I sat in a motel room surrounded by radio microphones and read letters from women who had had abortions Hour after hour, all day, we broadcast the stories from almost every decade of the 20th century, stories that women have never forgotten, grandmothers, mothers, daughters who said over and over, "I never told anyone before. Not even my mother knew. My father disowned me. I did what I had to do. I did what I had to do. I did what I had to do." I never wanted to have to write this again. I never wanted to feel shame for my woman's body, never wanted to be damaged goods, never wanted to be afraid for my life, never wanted to be afraid for my granddaughters' lives. But this is what it comes to. Believing somehow that controlling a woman's body will control her spirit, believing that she's yours to control, believing the lie that you are protecting her. And so I remember that waiting room, the girl who went in before me, maybe 13, maybe 15. I remember the smell of the anesthesia. I remember the snow and the dust of the Pennsylvania coal town. I remember the plastic-covered chairs. I did what I had to do. And once again, I have to do what I have to do. The next few poems are poems for specific people. This is titled Migration. It's for Blanche. My new friend tells me that her mother came north to Detroit, leaving the humid and ominous South for cold winters and different threats. My grandmother's German-speaking grandmother piled 9 kids in a covered wagon and went west because her husband told her to meet him in what was not yet Nebraska. I think of monarchs flying miles, their fragile wings beating in air that feels some days as solid as ice against their wings, dusty orange and black. Or the sandhill cranes, flocks so dense the sky turns dark, coming down to sleep in the small lakes in the western prairie. Now families land in foreign places, where even the trees are different, where the sky is not the same, where they wake to different birdsong, with clothes that belong to someone else, ill-fitting shoes, where the dust of their wings becomes dangerously thin. There is no going back. This next poem is called Internal Bleeding, and it's for John Snowbar, who is not here right now, who was here last semester. At first, it's all so ordinary. Lunch together, a lovely autumn day, the oak trees in the Broadway Mall turning rusty brown, the October sky endlessly blue. We drink coffee by the window. We've planned this lunch and replanned it as our schedules and our lives got complicated. You told me you'd been sick, and so have I, and secretly I wonder if I will be sick until after the election. Your eyes are haunted, and I know you see the rubble, smell the acrid air of destroyed Gaza, the small shoe at the edge of a crater, the woman's scarf helplessly entangled in electric wires. On one street, the walls of a school torn open, the blackboards still carry bits of lessons no one will ever learn. Algebra's unknowns diminish in the face of the knowns, the inevitability of destruction. You tell me of the photographs of children lined up and shot and then tossed into pits by IDF soldiers whose dark eyes mirror their victims, both the haunted and the hunter. You taste the concrete dust. Some nights dreams wrench you awake, and some baby, a nephew, a cousin, a neighbor, falls impaled on rebar, on steel buckling from bombs sent by the invisible soldiers at computer monitors who never see the tears or the terror. And I wonder how they sleep at night, how their mothers sleep at night, if they wake screaming, seeing the baby's shoe, the scarf, the bits of bone, the blood-stained dust. Even as thousands of miles away, you wake choking, knowing not knowing if it's your body, your bones, your arteries, pulsing blood out across your dorm room floor. This next poem is for my father. I don't think I have to tell you anything else. I think it's all in the poem, but my father was born in 1923. He died in 2009. The poem is titled Never Peter. For my father, 1923 to 2009. When did it first start, I wonder? Was it about clothes or games or being left-handed? When did your skin first become alien? The first grade teacher tied your left hand behind your back so that you could only write with the right. Eventually it took, but one of the daughters still writes with her left hand. In the 20s, all children wore dresses until they were about 3, and I have pictures of you with ringlet curls and a dress. But when they put you in short pants, did you miss the swish of skirts across your skin, or relish the freedom the pants gave you, or both? Too often, we forget the both, the and, the yes but. Too often, it's not just one or the other. Too often, there's a blur, a smudginess, no hard line telling us what is or isn't true. But there are days when the maple's leaves are red, orange, yellow, even green, depending on the light. And then there are those whose leaves shine purple against the bluest of skies. Later in high school, after you'd moved upstairs to the 3rd floor apartment, your mother wrote to your sister saying, "The ghost is back," because she'd found women's clothes in your closet. And the ghost lived from then on. She lurked under your skin, in the feel of a cloth against your chest, in the echo of an unfamiliar voice in your throat. At the wedding, did you long to wear the satin, the sweetheart neckline dress your unformed bride had found among the limited post-war choices? I can imagine you standing there, wanting to run your fingers along the cloth, saying vows that might or might not keep your secret safe. The wind blows across the river, riffling the darkening water, late afternoon, and the sky clouds over. But no storm tonight, perhaps. Perhaps a moon. A river is still enough for a mirrored reflection. One morning you woke me for school, your finger running along the curve of my eyebrow. I turned off the alarm, got up, and dressed. But many years later, wondered and remembered and wondered in that moment if you wanted eyebrows that curved, arched sweetly over long-lashed, sleepy eyes. The ghost traced her finger along the brow. Over the years, you took long, solitary walks in the woods. My mother said you were Thoreau-like. She had no other words for someone so unavailable, so oddly distant, and yet so happy to make pancakes. The moonlight falls through my bedroom window. When it's full, I can almost read by it. But remember, there's no warmth, only reflection. And how often were you a reflection of what was wanted, an impossible standard? You could not be the sun. So when I told you, as you lay in the hospital bed, decades later, that I knew, that I had seen your clothes, the photos, the high-heeled shoes, the sweater sets and pearls, we cried together, and I knew your real name at last. So I'm going to skip a couple here. And this is the last poem that I'm going to read, but I'm also, then right after this poem, I'll read a little bit of prose. This is the poem titled, That Moment of Infinite Tenderness. Draw a finger along a jawline from earlobe to chin. Trace the bone beneath the skin, feeling the way the skull lies there, covered by frail flesh. I used to sit in the movies and feel the pulse in my husband's wrist, ticking, ticking, steady, continuous proof. Odd how when we smile, our teeth reveal the bone that will remain after the flesh falls away. Ancient faces, no skin remaining, have teeth, but it's only the skin and muscles that smile. I want someone just once to lay a hand along my face, to feel the way the bones lie, the cheekbones, the eye sockets, the jaw, to feel the way a cheek nestles in the palm, the way a palm cradles the cheek, the most cherishing of gestures. We hold our children's faces and sometimes lovers in that moment of infinite tenderness, as if the face might disappear in an instant and all that would be left would be the skull, the little death, each little death. And so, the day after the 2025 presidential election, many union people gathered in the quad, some for all day, some drifted in and out, but the despair was palpable, but so was the joy of being together, of singing and drumming together. One of my fellow students approached me in tears, and I hugged them and then stepped back, laid my hand along their cheek, wiping their tears. We were both shaken, stunned by the outcome, though it was not unexpected. Sweetie, I said, you grew up Catholic. You know the only unforgivable sin is despair. They nodded, and I continued, when we despair, we give in. There's no room for hope. Your presence here fills me with joy. Let's remember the joy. We hugged tightly and we moved on. But in that one moment of infinite tenderness, we said all that we needed to say. We held each other, both physically and spiritually. What I have learned is that it's always those moments, and really only those moments, that provide meaning. They are fleeting, but they recur. They are short, but we remember them. And at some point, they will be gone because the people involved will be gone. But that is literally immaterial. Life always demands infinite tenderness. Because we are human, we can see a possible future, and we can understand rationally that each of us dies. But we also can understand how precious each moment, each gesture, each touch is, because it does disappear. It is that knife edge between the miracle of existence and the end of the world.
Hey, Weezy! That was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Gosh. Well, thank you. I'll be willing to take questions if you have any. If you don't, that's fine too. But Blanche.
Why in the hell are you not proud of the beauty
Don't make
of
me
your
cry.
poetry?
Thank you. Thank you.
I love you, Jane.
Thank you. Gosh. Well, thank you all for coming. exhausting.